So a couple days ago, some leaks apparently dropped regarding The Boys Season 5, Episode 7, which will of course be airing Wednesday, and I'm not sure how accurate any of this is, though I do know that the first 7 episodes of Season 5 were all provided to a select group of people for review purposes, so it is true that at least some people did see Episode 7 weeks in advance, and it's equally possible that one or more of them somehow let out the allegedly leaked information. Either way, most of these leaks are quite interesting, so I just wanted to react to them. The first one is that Homelander survives the V1, of course, and actually becomes more powerful and immortal. And now that he's got literally no reason to be afraid of anyone or anything, he loses anything resembling what little restraint he has left. He goes to the White House, walks up those steps in the scenes from the trailer, unalives President Calhoun, then takes over as American president. And yeah, that's pretty much par for Homelander's course. The entire show has been building up to his losing all sense of sanity, and Season 5 has been building up to his attempt to replace God. Once he thinks he's done so, it only makes sense that he's going to shake off any hint of reason, unleash himself as an undisputed ruler, and begin that reign with shocking brutality. The next leak is that Soulja Boy is betrayed, but not unalived, by Homelander. Soulja Boy, seeing Homelander's rise, feels like there's not much more for him to watch his son accomplish, and decides that he wants to go to Colombia for, no lie, the women and the fun, drugs. Homelander begs him to stay and not leave again, and when Soulja Boy, in Soulja Boy fashion, turns down his perceived neediness, Homelander chokes him out and puts him back in his capsule to hold on to him for all time or whatever. And this, if it does happen, would just be ridiculous. So Soulja Boy flip-flops on Homelander for what, the billionth time this season? Like, he wanted to kill Butcher for backing out once in Season 3 on their plan to unalive Homelander, and he switched sides what feels like 1,000,000 times every episode this season. Also, he was just droning on in Episode 6 about how his one true love was Stormfront, after droning on in Season 3 about how his one true love was Crimson Countess. And now he just wants to bugger off to Colombia for the women who are there. Just what? What? But moving on. The next leak is that Butcher has been working on a backup plan this entire time for if Homelander ever took V1. He's been watching the Russian tapes of those experiments on Soulja Boy, and he's been building a machine that he hopes can replicate Soulja Boy's ability to strip supes of their powers. Now that Sage realizes that she's number 1 on Homelander's hit list for betraying him in Episode 6 and smugly letting him know that she was betraying him because she was so sure that her scheme against him would work and that he would never be able to actually retaliate against her, Sage officially joins the boys and helps Butcher and Frenchie experiment to recreate Soulja Boy's chest beam ability. Starlight initially volunteers to accept the risk of undergoing the process, but Kimiko is eventually selected because of her greater regenerative powers, and the process actually works for her. And that really does sound like a rather cool twist that smartly pays off the tease from Episode 5 about the secret project that Butcher told Huey he was conducting, I believe, with Frenchie. It makes sense that Butcher and Frenchie, not exactly being expert scientists and probably not exactly having access to the wide breadth of data that they need to make a project like this one work, might run into some trouble with effectively recreating Soulja Boy's chest beam power. It makes sense that Sage would be the one person who could help them finally put it together. It makes sense that Annie would volunteer to take the risk of experimentation, but it makes even more sense that Kimiko would be the one selected once cooler heads prevailed. Of all the boys, she is the most fastidious and the most likely to bounce back from potentially fatal experimentation. Anyway, the next leak is that while the boys and Sage are working on the machine, Homelander learns their location and comes for them. Frenchie, whose relationship with Kimiko gets much more focused this episode, sacrifices himself to help the others escape and is brutally unalived by Homelander. Now that twist to me would be quite a bit weaker. This entire series really has been teasing Frenchie's eventually dying for Kimiko in some capacity, with Frenchie's constant inferiority complex combined with his treatment of Kimiko like some sort of angel whom he doesn't deserve. And season 5 has effectively been telegraphing Frenchie's death to an even greater degree since, I believe, episode 2 or 3, with the constant questioning by him of how he and Kimiko could work out due to his inability to give her the normal life that she wants, how he does not think he's good enough for her, how he loves her anyway, etc. Yeah, it's pretty obvious that this story has been building up to Frenchie's not having a happy ending with Kimiko, but also to his being unalived to save her, simultaneously redeeming himself in some capacity, in at least his own eyes, for the murders he's committed and the evil he's done before, or whatever. Okay, next leak. While the machine construction storyline is cooking, Starlight, Huey, MM, who also gets quite a bit of focus this episode, and Butcher get attacked by Dognot and She-Line. Starlight and MM unalive Dognot and She-Line, while Huey and possibly Butcher get captured by another shapeshifter who works for O-Father. The shapeshifter tries to psychically manipulate Huey into turning on Butcher by manifesting Joe Kessler and telling Huey about evil things that Huey doesn't know that Butcher has done. Nevertheless, Huey outsmarts the shapeshifter and Butcher unalives it. Again, that twist would feel a little weak and a little side questy to me, especially for this show's penultimate episode. The Boys has already well established that no matter how bad Butcher is, Huey is not going to turn on him, at least until the mission is complete, and in a way loves him like a wayward older brother. So this really feels more like the type of subplot that the show would deploy just to give Butcher and or Huey something to do, rather than advance the story in any real capacity, possibly just to engineer cheap laughs from a situation where Huey encounters yet another shapeshifter. Alright, the next leak is that Marie and Jordan and or possibly Kate from Gen V make an appearance when they provide a safe house to help protect people whom Starlight and or the Boys rescue from a focus group created by O-Father to test their faithfulness and loyalty to Homelander. And this is supposed to set Marie up for a more meaningful appearance in episode 8. And all I have to say to that is that Marie and the Gen V kids should have appeared in this story long before now. I don't much care for Gen V as a show, and I've said repeatedly that I think that the story ruined the main narrative of The Boys in ways from which the show never recovered, but still, in the world of The Boys, it makes no narrative sense given both Marie's established savior complex temptations and her status as a Project Odessa soup who might be capable of controlling or killing Homelander, why any of the Boys did not decide in episode 1 or maybe 2 of this season to use her as part of their plan to take down Homelander in the 7. No sense at all. Okay, the penultimate leak is that Ashley, having been horrified by watching Homelander unalive the president, finally grows both a conscience and a spine and comes to an agreement with her other head that enough is enough and that they need to take down Homelander. And I just don't really care. Ashley always has been a nothing character at best. Her arc of being a yellow-bellied coward who enjoys depraved acts of S and who's always losing her hair has never connected with me. Season 4 kinda gave her some development with A-Train, but Season 5 just reversed it all. So at this point, I don't really care what happens to her. I really wish she would just go ahead and get unalived. Nevertheless, I suspect it won't happen because characters of her kind somehow always manage to survive like cockroaches in shows like this. And I really could see an ending to this show where, like, maybe after all the madness and the war are over, Stan Edgar just returns to work at Vought, business as usual, with Ashley and her telepathic face by his side, maybe with the Deep as an assistant or maybe even a vice president, helping give him a leg up on the competition. And that ending would actually be very similar to what happens in the source material. Anyway, the final leak is that at the end of the episode, after Frenchie's unaliving, the boys regroup in another safe house, battered but determined to give it one last all-or-nothing go to take down Homelander. This results in that scene from the first trailer for Season 5, where Butcher asks the boys if they'll join him for one last fight. Kimiko, after Frenchie's unaliving, interestingly refuses to speak again, and instead uses sign language to communicate that she's in, just like what happened in that trailer. And once more, this development, if it happened, would leave me feeling little more than ambivalence. Yeah, the boys united and determined to finish Homelander once and for all seems like an epic tee-off to the final episode, but how many times has that already happened before? How many plots have the boys made to defeat Homelander that have just fallen apart for whatever reason over the past 5 seasons? What's different now? It just doesn't hit as hard anymore. But anyway, that's enough from me. Those are the leaks. That's my reaction. Definitely sound off in the comments to let me know what you think of those leaks. And once you're done, don't forget to like and follow for more.